Deep within the misty mountains of the north, where the sun rarely pierced the shroud of clouds and waterfalls sang ancient songs, there dwelled a dwarf named Andvari. His home lay hidden behind a roaring curtain of water that tumbled from the cliffs like liquid glass. Few had ever seen the entrance, and fewer still dared to approach, for it was said the place was enchanted. Behind that veil of water, Andvari kept treasures beyond mortal comprehension: golden ingots, jeweled goblets, and crowns once worn by forgotten kings. Yet, among all his possessions, the most precious was his secret gift, the power to take the form of a great pike, swift and strong, gliding through the dark pools of his domain. It was in this shape that Andvari guarded his riches, unseen beneath the surface of the cold mountain water. Not far from his hidden hall lived another family of dwarves, Hreidmar and his sons Regan, Fafnir, and Otyr. Each was gifted in his own way. Regan, with the cunning of a smith whose hammers rang with the music of creation. Fafnir, mighty and ambitious with a will as hard as iron. And Otyr, nimble and joyful, who spent his days by the riverside, transforming into an otter and catching fish with unmatched skill. One clear morning, Otyr slipped into the water, his sleek form darting through the spray of Andvari's pool. He caught a salmon larger than any he'd seen before, and after his feast lay on the sun-warmed bank, his fur gleaming silver in the light. As he drifted into slumber, the murmuring of the falls seemed to lull the entire valley into peace. But fate had other plans that day. For at that very moment, 3 travelers from Asgard, Odin the Allfather, Hönir the Silent Thinker, and Loki the Cunning, wandered through the land. They came upon the pool, drawn by its shimmering beauty. Loki, always restless, noticed the sleeping otter. Mistaking it for mere prey and thinking to amuse his companions, he lifted a stone and hurled it with cruel precision. The stone struck true, and Otyr lay still. When the Aesir skinned the creature to admire its pelt, they continued their journey until they reached a nearby dwelling, the hall of Hreidmar. Smiling, they presented the skin as a gift. But when the dwarf saw it, his joy turned to horror, then fury. "This," he cried, voice trembling with rage, "is the skin of my son. You have slain him, gods or not, and you shall pay the price." Odin, solemn as the mountains, nodded and declared that recompense would be made. "Name your price," he said. "Fill this skin," Hreidmar demanded, "with gold, and cover every hair with riches, so that not a patch of fur remains visible." Thus Loki was sent to gather the ransom. Knowing where to find such wealth, he borrowed Ran's enchanted net, the same that once captured sailors beneath the waves. He cast it into Andvari's pool, and soon a mighty pike thrashed in its threads. The fish shimmered, then shifted, and there stood the dwarf Andvari, eyes burning with wrath and fear. "Release me, trickster," he cried. "Not until you surrender your hoard," Loki replied with a cruel grin. With no choice, Andvari led him into his cavern, where mountains of gold gleamed in the torchlight. Loki's eyes glittered greedily as he swept it all into sacks, every coin, every jewel. Only one treasure Andvari tried to keep, a single ring, delicate yet radiant, which seemed to pulse with an inner fire. "This one thing," Andvari pleaded, "let me keep, for it is bound to my fate." But Loki's heart was unmoved. He tore it from Andvari's hand, laughing as he turned to leave. Then Andvari raised his arms, his voice echoing like thunder through the cavern. "May this gold bring ruin to all who possess it. May it consume hearts with greed and turn kin against kin." Loki shuddered at the words but did not turn back. He delivered the treasure to Hreidmar, who accepted it with greedy delight. But the curse was already awake. Soon, Fafnir, poisoned by envy, struck down his father and drove away his brother Regan, clutching the treasure to himself. He carried it into the wilderness, where he built a lair and, through the dark magic of the curse, transformed into a monstrous dragon, scales like iron, breath like poison. He coiled around his hoard, a living shadow of avarice. Regan, exiled and bitter, became smith to the young hero Sigurd, whispering tales of vengeance and glory. He forged for him the blade Gram, the sword destined to slay dragons. When Sigurd slew Fafnir and stood bathed in the blood of the beast, Regan's eyes burned with greed. But the curse had already chosen its path. Before Regan could claim the treasure, Sigurd turned the sword upon him, ending his life. Thus, one by one, all who touched Andvari's gold met ruin. Centuries passed. The hoard changed hands many times, bringing sorrow and death wherever it went, until at last it was lost to time and earth, scattered, forgotten, buried by fate. Some say the gold, weary of blood, found its way back to the cave behind the waterfall. When Andvari returned, he found his treasure once more, all but one piece. The ring was gone. And so, the dwarf sat alone in the gloom, the sound of falling water his only companion, whispering to the dark, "One day it will return, and the curse will rise again." Where is the ring now? No one knows. But should you travel in the misty lands of the north and find a gold ring glimmering in a stream, do not touch it. For some treasures are not meant for mortal hands, and some curses never truly sleep.